Rico McGee, another episode of the Sports Minute. I'm here with my man Arnold Tarpley III, man, Pittsburgh Maulers safety, one of the best in the United States Football League, if I do say so myself. Thank you for being on the show, man.
I like that intro, bro. Thank you. Appreciate you, brother.
Man, listen, y'all guys had one heck of a season, made it all the way to the USFL championship game. A lot of people were writing you guys out after last season, and to watch you guys just turn it around, build that chemistry, you guys really did your thing this season.
I appreciate it, man. We putting a lot of work in, had a lot of naysayers, but we were able to put together a miraculous season, honestly.
Okay, yeah, definitely. So one of the things I wanted to ask, a lot of people that don't know who you are, can you tell them about, your football journey and what are some of your goals and what do you hope to accomplish in the sport?
Great question, man. So a little bit about my football journey. Originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Went to Pittsburgh Central Catholic, kind of like a powerhouse school. Most notable person being Dan Marino that came out of there. Ended up going to Vanderbilt University. It was between Vanderbilt and Boston College in college. Went down, played a little bit my freshman year. If you guys know about Vandy, we only had a few good years. So it was pretty difficult, playing in the SEC. But it was good. I always wanted to challenge myself, say if my goal was to get to NFL and to be, all-star caliber player, was to play against the best competition, week in and week out. So that's why I chose to go there. Went to Vanderbilt, played for 4 years, started freshman year, probably 3 games. Sophomore year, I played nickel. So I started my entire season at nickel. Junior year, honestly, was benched the first 4 or 5 games because they moved me to free safety. It was like a different world for me. So when I went in my junior year, I was sitting on the bench. I was coming in and out for the first 5 games. Then week 6 at Georgia, got my first start. Went down there. We ended up winning that game. Came back. And then senior year, decided, I was playing both free and strong and a little bit of nickel. So they were just moving me around, man. Had a really good season. Then my last college practice of my career, I tore my ACL. So I missed I couldn't do pro day. I couldn't do combine training, nothing. I was out for 13 months, just recovering. Came back, played in a league called the Alliance of American Football League. Played there for a little bit. After that, I had a rookie minicamp workout with the Steelers. Just went to that, whatever, didn't get signed. Then it was like a year and a half, man, of nothing. It was just cold, nothing. I was just grinding, no calls, no anything. And then I went and played in this spring league. That's when it was called that. So I did that in 2020 after COVID, or not after COVID, but like kind of at the height of COVID, I guess you could say, that fall. Then after that, I had another year of nothing. So 2021, nothing happened. Then 2022, the USFL decided to come out, which essentially the spring league transitioned over into now what is known as the USFL. That came out, got drafted by the Pittsburgh Maulers, went there, played the first 6 games, had like a little hamstring thing. So I missed the last few games last year. Didn't get called up to the NFL. Well, it was pretty unfortunate. I talked to a few teams. Then, grinded my butt off this offseason, got back. Came back in, started out, strong, having good performances game after game this past year, 2022. Or this 2023, isn't it? I'm tripping. 2023, this season, was able to, help my team, go to the championship, first team all USFL, try to do my thing. And then goals for the future, man, it was quite kind of a fast track, but goals for the future is, make it to the NFL. My number one goal is to be first team all pro. I know to a lot of people that may seem unrealistic, but, I know I can do it. Just a matter of me just getting better every day. That's all I focus on. I try not to think too far ahead at all. I just try to take it day by day and see how I can get better. And right now, God willing, just waiting on an opportunity to get into an NFL camp. And then from there, just let all the chips fall where they may. So that was like a fast track of, essentially where I'm at and where I'm going.
Okay. Well, Alex Magoo, Brandon Aubrey, Josh Peterson, and now Austin Watkins have all been picked up by NFL teams. So how confident are you that you could be picked up as well by an NFL team?
Yeah, man. Very, very. We actually had 2 more people signed today. The tight end for Birmingham and the wide receiver got picked up from Birmingham as well, like a few minutes ago or a few hours ago or whatever. So yeah, man, I mean, I'm very confident, players on our team are getting calls. Haven't really heard anything too concrete yet, but I'm confident, man. I think that, I think God will make a way,
Oh,
somehow
definitely.
open, and I'll just make sure I'm prepared.
Okay. Now, the offseason seems a little bit longer than an NFL offseason. So, how do USFL players like stay in shape? And do you incorporate like weights into your workouts? What's your workout like?
Yeah, great question. So my training schedule, it fluctuates. It depends on kind of what the goals are. So what I do once the season ends, no matter what league I'm in, even back to college, kind of what I've done is always try to get with my what I like to call team and figure out what's going to be the emphasis. Right, look at my film, see what I did well on, see what I need to improve on. I sit down with my mentor, my defensive back mentor. He'll break my film down, tell me what we need to work on, and then from there, just develop a game plan. So like this year, obviously, preparing hopefully for NFL opportunity, but also just in general, I've incorporated a lot more Pilates into what I'm doing. So I'm doing that twice a week. I'm doing a lot more what they call controlled articular rotations, which essentially just like your joints. So joint mobility, making sure that all your joints are very nimble. And that's really my emphasis. I do lift 3 times a week. Make sure you gotta hit the weights. I don't go crazy in the weight room just because being mobile, making sure your joints are very loose, making sure your muscles are limber, making sure that you're explosive and you're in great shape. Like that's the name of the game. Being the strongest dude in the world isn't necessarily important. You do need to be strong. So that's my off-season focus. That was my focus coming into this year, as well as just a lot of speed work, developing, learning how to run, learning how to be explosive, ankle stability, along with so many other things. But yeah, most people, they'll have blocks depending on what their goals are, whether it's a strength block or a speed block or an explosion block. Mine is a little bit more integrated altogether, depending on like what the goal is. So right now the goal is just to stay as pliable, as what it's called, as possible, with massages, with strength training, and then with speed work and conditioning, and just make sure you're not prepared.
Okay. Okay. Definitely. I started following you on your Instagram. For those that don't know, follow him at Trey Tarpley on Instagram. And I see that you provide a lot of great financial advice.
Mhm.
Is business and finance something that you've always been into?
Yeah, good question. So when I went to Vanderbilt, it's a liberal arts school, I was always interested in business, but they don't have that as a major. So the closest thing you can do is minor in something called corporate strategy. And at Vanderbilt, they let you kind of do what's called create your own major. Essentially, what you do is you can kind of like put different courses together. So my degree is in communications and corporate strategy, but essentially I took a lot of like business S classes. The wild thing is though, I didn't learn 98% of everything I'm doing now in school. I've learned it through paying for courses. I have a mentor that I listen to um, for like business type things. And I watch a lot of podcasts and take tedious notes on YouTube just with a lot of different things. So yeah, I have a business called Yelp Digital. We just help small businesses and entrepreneurs in any field get what are called leads. And for the viewer that does not know what that is, a lead is essentially somebody looking for the product or service that you offer, right? So for you, it could be podcast leads. So people that want to get on a podcast or that have interesting stories, we could provide and show you different ways to actually get those clients without you having to, I know you reached out to me, you probably reach out to other people, but a seamless way to do that. We just create that for clients and then they pay us for that. Most of my financial advice is just about like credit. And that's just because my very first mentorship I did was a credit mentorship. It was a year long and I learned the ins and outs of like that aspect. And I knew that that was going to be a building block for whatever business or anything that I do in life, is to make sure that my credit is positioned so that way I can, do what I need to financially without having any like worries or struggles. So yeah, that's kind of an overarching theme of where I'm at.
That's dope, man. So I know you said you have a team or whatever. How important is it to have a team, especially like when you're first starting a business or even running a business? Just
Yeah,
having a
no,
team.
it's great, man. So I always like to tell people with having a team, it's two ways you can go about it. So there's a book called Who Not How by Dan Sullivan. Wonderful book. Just talks about how to actually hire people. And when you're trying to figure things out, it's not about figuring out how you need to do something. It's about figuring out who you need to actually accomplish it. So like going out and getting experts in the field. Now, if you financially cannot do that, which a lot of people cannot, I always tell people it's important to learn the craft that you are trying to hire somebody for before you hire them. And the benefit of doing that is because if you can learn the craft before you hire them, you can then do what I do, which is hire virtual assistants and teach them how to do the skill that you need them to do for a much lower cost. And now they can actually run what we call standard rate operating procedure and SOP for you to keep the business going. And for me, that's how I've been able to scale the business. So I spent my first, 5 to 7 months learning how to get these clients for the business owners, how to get leads, right? Once I figured that out, I went out and found somebody who could help me. And then I started going out and finding the other pieces that were necessary: customer service, automation, website building, graphics, videos, logos, essential things. You can find those as you go to scale. And that's the way that I always tell people how to like build your team, like you said, from the ground up, is by starting out with you doing all the work and then figuring out on a sheet of paper, what are some things that you can easily teach somebody to do? And the more things you can check off, you can then go hire somebody to do those things. And as you continue to check things off, you'll add things until eventually, you have your team of 3 or 4, 2 or 5 or 8 or however many people you need to meet the needs that your business requires.
So I know this is a wild question coming up next. Being a pro athlete and watching a lot of the pro athletes, who come into millions of dollars and then can just lose it all and just like that, with the snap of a finger. What do you think the biggest reason is? What do you think is the biggest reason that a lot of pro athletes go broke once their career is over?
That's a wonderful question, brother. Honestly, it's just lack of, I don't want to just say information because it's so readily available, but it's a mixture of information and execution, right?
Okay.
I think that's the answer for everything in life, but that's a whole nother conversation. But yes, I just feel like, the information is out there, but a lot of people would rather not only pay somebody, but pay somebody to not think. And I don't blame them. I don't, because I understand the logic behind it. If you're doing it for an intentional reason, like I would pay somebody to do a job that I don't feel like doing, that I don't think is necessary for me to know how to do. But for me to know how to manage my money is important. Will I still pay somebody to do it? Yes, but I would be asking a lot of questions along the way. That's why I say that part of it is information, because some people may just not have known, right? And it just is what it is. They didn't know. But then the part I say is execution is you got to be willing to spend an hour to sit down and see what your person is doing or how to move the money or whatever. Because, most people have somebody that is helping them out, but did they vet the person properly? Did they actually go out and do what was necessary to find a person? I don't know. I'm not to say, I'll never judge another man or a woman, based on whatever decision they make, because that's their decision. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I just feel like there's just the information that we are given or that we seek out is not always necessary for how much money we have coming in. And then the other part I feel like is just environment. It's difficult. A lot of us, being Black and brown that are athletes, and that's all I can speak to because, my family and et cetera. Sometimes we just haven't been surrounded with the people in our life growing up that can show us what to do with money. And that, we could spend all day talking about that, but goes back to, decades and decades of everything that we've been through. But also, that's not an excuse, just in general, modern day, like we don't got a lot of homies that's making the type of money we have, or women don't have the friends that they, are around that are making that type of money. And, with that, it comes hard. What I have, $1 million. What do I do with it? Somebody says, put it in a bank account. Somebody says, put it in a life insurance policy. Somebody says, put it in real estate. What kind of real estate? Somebody says, put it in stocks. Somebody says, blow it. What direction do I need to go in? Right. So it's hard. Right. And I guess the third thing and final thing would be mentorship. It's feel like we don't have enough guidance. It's hard if you're making $15 million at 25 years old to who you going to go to. Nobody else around you is making $15 million. And the gentleman or the woman who is making $15 million from a business that could probably mentor you, if you don't have the right information, you don't even know where to go to find those people. So you're just left to make decisions on your own. And it's hard. How am I going to tell you? I don't make 15 mil, so I can't tell you what to do. But if somebody was making that type of money, that would help out. I think that's why you see a lot of athletes like hanging out with entrepreneurs and whatnot now, becoming a little bit more popular and prominent, because I think it is a good blend.
So. Okay. One last question before we get up out of here, because I know you're a busy man and you got things to do. What do you think? Do you think that maybe the athletes that, have invested and have come out, pretty good athletes like Magic Johnson and people like that. Do you think that maybe we should start like some kind of financial mentorship class and help those, those new rookies coming into the NFL and the USFL and the NBA and show them, the right ways to manage your money properly and how to properly invest?
Yeah, no, 100%, man. I mean, I think they have some of those programs. I don't know much about it, so I don't want to sound ignorant and speak on something I don't know. So I'll just speak on something that I think would be cool, right? So to answer your question, I do think that there is a wave coming that will push more towards that. But I think as an athlete, me just knowing how we think, we have to find a way for it to be engaging enough for people to want to do it. Right? Because at the end of the day, yes, you will have your people who will do it regardless. It could just be talking about what is a 401k, right? And people will show up, right? But we have to find a way to get everybody involved because everybody is involved. Everybody's making money. And when I say everybody, I mean like within the pro athlete realm is making some level of money. So we all need it. Like it doesn't matter who you are, you need it, but you got to find a way for people to show up, to be engaged, to want to learn. I don't know that answer. I'm not the person to, do that, but I can say in regards to your question, I do think that those type of things are in the works potentially. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see them coming out because it is just becoming more and more of a prominent conversation.
Okay. Well, Arnold Tarpley, thank you so much for joining my show, man. I'm a huge fan of yours. I always have been from the time I started covering USFL games. Thank you for being on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
Hey, no problem, brother. Thank you for having me, man.
No problem at all. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Rico McGee. This has been the Sports Minute. And as always, we will see you in a minute.